Frazier. It is the best time of the year. The madness is soaking around us. We are sitting here and we are just kind of wafting in the air of March Madness. And joining us to make sense of it all, we got Cousin Sal on the show. Sal, how you doing? I know it's not football, but I hope you're fired up just like myself here.
I am fired up beyond belief. I can't make sense of it all. This is your week. I hope everyone at the Ringer is showering you with gifts. And I mean, have you received any porcelain North Carolina cheerleaders before? I'm not sure.
There is only one man who would do such a thing, and luckily I get to talk, the madness with you, and it's still sitting in my car right now. I refuse to bring it in my house. I'm so scared of what that doll is going to do to me. But that's a conversation for another day.
There are laws about keeping a child in a car with the windows up. I hope you're aware of that, even in California. Yeah.
I think you're right. I need to go check on that. Speaking of things we need to check on, let's check on my favorite game because we're going to play it. I know that March Madness is my favorite time, but let's do some over-under reactions. And let's start here, Sal. This has been quite the hoopla after the bracket came out. And I say to you, the UNC athletic director, Bubba Cunningham, is more powerful than Elon Musk. Over or under reaction? What say you?
Wow. I'm going to say underreaction. I can't believe those words left your mouth. I mean, your parents are probably going to be purchasing an electric car from Bubba Cunningham sometime soon.
Very soon, yes, our leader.
Listen, you don't have to say anything. First of all, this is quite ironic, right? Because this is your happy time of year, right? Mm-hmm. March Madness, first week of the NCAA tournament, and you couldn't be more upset. Before the show started, it really has gotten your goat how angry people are about how angry they are about this Carolina thing getting in. Right. This is you are all of a sudden the villain. You have overtaken Duke as the villain because the athletic director was in the same committee that picked Carolina to get in as the 68th team.
And people forget, Sal, he was the chair of the same committee back in 2023 when North Carolina did not make the tournament. So he decided not to use his power, his almighty power back in 2023, but he wanted to use it this year. West Virginia is aggrieved. The governor has come out. He has said he is going to sue the NCAA. That is how this goes all the way to the top. This is the world that we live in right now. And I do find it a bit funny that we have gotten to this point where it's a crime, a miscarriage of justice. And Bubba Cunningham, like you said, the most powerful man in all of college sports. So that's where we are. Carolina, most hated team in the country, Sal. Who would have thought?
You got to like it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like when Roddy Piper turned bad and everybody rooted against him, I kind of liked it. I wore a kilt and went to Madison Square Garden.
Right. Sections
of people booed me. So now that's you. You're a Duke all of a sudden. The fact that it's Wednesday and we're still talking about it is preposterous. This is not the NCAA football where a couple of years ago when 4 teams got in and Florida State got shafted. They were 2 games away from the national title. This is the 68th or 69th best team, and we're just screaming about it. Like, it's really, really dumb. On the other hand, the guy made $104,000 bonus. Shouldn't he donate that money?
He should donate that money. Yeah. Okay. Definitely back to the pool. But it is funny that, like, with football, it was the best team needs to get in. With college basketball, it's the most deserving team needs to get in. Different argument for different days and different sports. But that's where we are. Let's keep it rolling. I say to you, South Florida has the easiest path to a Final Four. Over or under reaction? What say you?
I'm going to say overreaction because I don't have them going to the Final Four. I have Maryland taking them out in the Grade 8, which is about the best news Maryland can receive that I have, or best news Florida can receive that I have Maryland beating them. But you like Todd Golden's team. You like what they've done. You think they're the best from top to bottom, don't you?
I think they have the most wow factor. I think they have the most depth. I also am a little bit concerned now that everybody has seen this team and seems like they are, it feels like the very in vogue pick. And that concerns me a little bit. Reminds me of 2023 Auburn, right? Walker Kessler, Jabari Smith, everybody going to the tournament. How could you not take Auburn? They're going to win the whole thing. That scares me a little bit with Florida. And especially looking at where they are, UConn potentially the defending champs in the second round, that would be a tough matchup. So it's definitely not the easiest path for the Gators, but they're a really good basketball team. Let's talk about the team that does have a very easy path. I say to you, Sal, Cooper Flag stock drops with every game Duke wins without him. Over or under reaction?
Oh, first of all, hideous injury. It looked like, at least.
Yes.
I hate those when the ankles go the other way. But wouldn't it be funny? All right, I'm going to say underreaction here, but wouldn't it be funny if Duke load managed Cooper Flag all the way to the Final Four and then actually played him and then lost? That would be, or load sat him out the whole time. Like, it doesn't matter that they're sitting him against Mount St. Mary, Jay Blige, whoever came out of that game. But John Shire could look like a hero here for winning the whole thing without Cooper Flagg. And then the entire NBA is like, why did we tank for this guy? They didn't even need him to win a title.
Yeah, we could have the flag theory, right? The new
be careful.
theory that right. That could come back to never mind. I didn't say that. Cut that. Next up, Rick Pitino, Sal, is the best college basketball coach of the past 30 years. Over or under reaction?
I have to say overreaction. I mean, how do you measure this anyway? Like I like that he's Italian American and looks and talks just like my agent James Baby Doll Dixon. But other than that, I'm looking at the numbers. You give me your answer, and then I'll tell you some of these numbers I dug up to suggest that he isn't maybe the best.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like we are definitely, kind of flavor of the day. We talk about recency bias. I am happy that Rick Pitino took a 16 to the tournament. I'm happy that St. John's is back. It doesn't mean though that he is the greatest, as far as resume, but in game, what he's been able to do with programs, I could hear that argument. But obviously, Wooden, Coach K, Dean Smith. I mean, those are probably the big three there. It's hard to knock out one of those guys, one of those pillars. But Rick Pitino, he's right there knocking on the door. It's no disrespect to Pitino. He also did both. He did pro. He's like Larry Brown, right? Like Larry Brown and Rick Pitino kind of live in their own world. They've done pro and college, and they've done it at a high level.
Right. And I think the question is for the last 30 years, right? So I don't know that I put Wooden in there. Like Wooden's got 0 wins in the last 30 years.
Ask a UCLA fan. It still lingers on. There. Right.
I did look. I think Final Four appearances is pretty good metric. Mm-hmm. Izzo, 8. Roy Williams, 7. Coach K, 6. Calipari, 6. Bill Self, 4. That's 5 names before I even get to Pitino, who has 3. Your guy, Dean Smith, has 2, and he hasn't coached in forever. So I think he's got a little bit of ways to go. But
yeah, so I think the answer, like you're saying, is either Roy Williams or Dean Smith. So I think
I guess. I mean, tough to rule Izzo out in that, though. No, the guy who has the most.
Yeah, whatever. I heard what I heard. DeMarcus Lawrence has a better chance winning a Super Bowl with Seattle than Dallas. Over or under reaction? I know this is near and dear to your heart, Sal.
Well, this is a snarky question, and I was going to say overreaction, and then I looked at FanDuel's odds. Check this out. Seattle, 50-1 to win the Super Bowl. The Dallas Cowboys, 65-1.
Oh my God.
This happened. My God.
What is happening?
Sammy Darnold and a has-been Cooper Kupp. Like, how are they supposed to? All right, whatever. I mean, I like the public beefs. I really do. I like when a person leaves the team. I feel like they should do this in everyday life, honestly. Leslie is leaving us at Yahoo, going to Google. Let me say some bad things about her on social media on the way out.
Let's just tweet it out. Let's just tweet through it. And I will say, good news for you, Sal. Javonte Williams is on the way. He will come there and he will save Dallas Cowboys football. That's the good news.
Going to be a tough 1,000 yards for him. Yep.
Speaking of North Carolina football, I say to you, Sal, more coaches should photograph themselves attempting to balance their girlfriends on their legs. Let's take a look at this picture right here. Over or under reaction, Sal? What are your thoughts when you saw this?
I stared at this picture all weekend long. I didn't spend any time with my kids. Like I just, first of all, how many times did they have to practice this at home before they took it out, public to the beach?
I don't know.
What do you think?
That's a good question. A long time. And who took the picture? Joel Solomon brought up maybe Lombardi did. Who knows?
Lombardi might have. Maybe Gronk got in there. I don't know. Some of his chums. Could Coach Belichick do parkour? Like how this is crazy. How
looks limber,
flexible he is. And
my takeaway here was 5 more years at least, Sal. I mean, it looks like we got a decade of Bill Belichick coaching at this rate. Yeah.
All right. My takeaway was under 7.5 wins. But anyway, it's weird that this is not the most controversial event in Carolina sports this weekend.
Well, I'm waiting for them to send Bill Belichick to Pat McAfee and defend North Carolina. You know what I mean? We need somebody on the front lines that no one's going to say anything to. And I feel like Bill Belichick is the guy we got to send out there. We'll see if we get there.
I think it's you. I think it's you, my friend.
Maybe. I'll do my best. Let's call up the Riverboat captain. Let's have some fun. Let's do some prop culture. Here is the question that the Riverboat captain is posing to us. He is saying, what is the best sports-related theme song of all time? We've got the odds, Sal. One Shining Moment, the favorite at 3-1. Near and dear to my heart. Love that. Are you ready for some football? 5-1. Waiting All Day for Sunday night, 8-1. And the Undertaker's entrance music, which is called Rest in Peace, 50-1. We also have the field at even odds. What say you, Sal? What's the best sports-related theme song of all time?
The Undertaker. I mean, man, it's tough to beat The Undertaker. It's tough to beat Luther Vandross in One Shining Moment. And the one I don't like is Waiting All Day for Sunday Night, because it's just not true. The premise is not, we weren't waiting all day for Sunday night. We watched 13 games in 9 hours, and now the Sunday night game is here, so we could double up and try to make our money back, the ones we lost during the day. But you know what? I'm going to get a little sappy here, Tate. I'm going Take Me Out to the Ball Game. If it counts. It really does, right?
Yeah,
Whether it's Harry Carey leading the charge or Bill Murray, or it's just terrific. And I have videotape of my kids singing this when they were 2 and 3 and 6 and 10, whatever, in the ballpark. Nothing political, nothing about colonies getting surprised by bombs in the air or anything like that. You know what? I'm having such a great time. I don't care if I ever get back. Take me out to the ball game.
I love that. I love a sing-along. I love when everybody joins in the chorus and it kind of grows. It kind of reminds me of Aunt Bethany at Christmas Vacation. She starts doing the national anthem and everybody gets into it. It's a great moment. So I feel like I'm contractually obligated to say One Shiny Moment. I do love One Shiny Moment when I hear the ball is tipped. I mean, it just kind of gets your heartstrings going a little bit. But there is a song, Round Ball Rock would be in the conversation as well. But there is a song that I hear it in my head. I will be doing random, miscellaneous tasks around my house, and I just hear it in the back of my mind. Everybody get up, it's time to jam now. Space Jam soundtrack every single time. The Quad City DJs. So I know it's not real basketball that it's involved in, but the Space Jam theme song is incredible. So I'm gonna have to take the field even odds there. I know One Shining Moment would be great at 3-1, but I'm gonna go with the field. But I think those are two good picks.
I was worried I was gonna have to explain to you that that it wasn't real basketball, but you did say that. You did acknowledge it. So
I know. But when I was a kid, Sal, I thought that Michael Jordan saved us from the Monstars, and I was very appreciative of that.
You know what? The way this world is going, he may have to, after all.
Also, they're saying aliens are real now, so maybe we need Michael Jordan to play basketball against them. I turn it over to you, Sal. I'm going to let you set some lines for us. You got some lines looking forward to March Madness and beyond.
All right, this was kind of maddening in March and involved basketball. Brian Scalabrine challenged, or maybe it was the other way around, some influencer, like an older, rougher basketball player from the streets of New York, and they played, and Scalabrine beat him 11-0, and there were elbows thrown, and the ball was thrown over the fence, and it's pretty. I mean, we could take a look at some of the action here. He is rough. I want to know, would you score over under 3.5 points against Scalabrine?
Well, I'm thinking we're doing 1s and 2s, right? So I would kind of take that as the number. If I get the ball first and I'm able to hit the 3 when he checks it up to me before he reacts defensively, and if I'm able to make that first shot and get the ball back, that's 2 points. Now I get the ball back. If I make the next shot, then I'm at 4. I would take the chances of me maybe being able to do that if I get the ball first. But other than that, I have no shot. I've met Scalabrine in real life. He tried to punk me in real life. I did an interview with him. He did not like anything I was saying. He was just so upset. So I feel like if he saw me and he knew it was a one-on-one game, I would get worse treatment than this guy, this YouTuber. He would absolutely brutalize
Interesting.
me. So if I get the ball first, maybe there's a shot, but I'd probably hammer the over. So
okay, I'm going to, you know what? It sounds like there's bad blood, and we could set this up. So you wouldn't take an inside against him. Your game would have to be outside. You have to.
I'm a shooter. Unfortunately, it was tough in school. Whenever I would check into a game, right, they start yelling shooter, and it's not good when you are a shooter, Sal. Like it's nice when you aren't a shooter and people do that. You're like, all right, great. They're
you don't have to tell me. Yeah. What park? What you want home court? What park would you arrange it at?
Ooh, that's a good call. I mean, I like indoor gyms, but maybe I bring them out here to Playa del Rey. Like in my, I got a court down here by the beach. Right. I bring them out here. It's comfortable, familiar territories. The rims are like 9.5 feet. They're not quite 10 feet. So maybe that throws them off, Sal.
That would help you. All right.
Yeah, that would be good. I like that.
All right, Brian. Let's get you, Scalabrine. White Mamba and Playa del Rey. All right, here's another one. Over under, Tate, 168.5 times over the next 3 weeks that you'll see the name of the White Lotus. You'll see the meme of the White Lotus father holding a gun to his head while wearing a Duke t-shirt on social media. Over 168.5 times. Will you see this on social media?
Hammer the over. I probably have my last 200 likes are probably different people tweeting this picture out. I was sent it. A friend of mine who I went to school with sent me that image right as it happened on Sunday night and said, when Caleb Love ends Duke this season in the Sweet 16, right? There's a lot of ways that you can use it, but we're going to tweet it out a lot. We're going to see it a lot. So thank you, Mike White. And not the AD or the coach, Mike White, the actual Mike White, the
from
guy
White Stripes. No.
A lot of Mike Whites.
I mean, the timing is perfect. And even if Duke goes down by, down at half in any of these games, you're going to see it 1,000 times in 4 minutes, probably. I mean, if the timing really, if Patrick Schwarzenegger was wearing like an SIU Edwardsville Speedo, it wouldn't have been as good. Wild perfect episode. All right. Finally, who will eat more barbecue beef brisket sliders at the Jimmy Kimmel Comedy Club this Thursday, Friday. Yes, we'll be there. Watch party 4 to 10.
Can't wait.
Here are the odds. Harry minus 1,000. Sal plus 180. Nephew Kyle plus 250. Kenny Mayne plus 400. Tate plus 750. You're a dark horse. Who you taking?
I like the dark horse odds there, plus 750. I feel like I'm not going to have a chance against Harry because of those odds. And I feel like Harry, as he kind of stammers around, he's watching Purdue, he's getting mad. He's mad at Matt Painter. He's eating out of anger. I think that's the reason why you'd have to lean towards Harry. But I do think Kenny Mayne. Now, I don't know Kenny personally. I'm excited to be around him. I feel like him at plus 400, maybe you take a swing that, Kenny's just like, look, it's free food. I'm going to make sure I get the most out of this experience. And he starts knocking down some sliders. So final answer, I'll take Kenny Mayne plus 400.
Kenny's a good pick. I don't know that he'll stop talking enough to eat more than Harry. But then again, Harry is on Ozempic now, so I'm
I didn't know this.
I'm just kidding. He's not. Jimmy Kimmel Comedy Club, do it Thursday and Friday, 4 to 10. It's free. Come watch.
Free. Come hang out with us. Kyle will be there as well. Nephew Kyle. He's going to be happy about his odds not being the favorite, so that'll be good. Again, Thursday and Friday, we're going to have a great time at Jimmy Kimmel Comedy Club. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk more NCAA tournament, and we're going to talk some line look-aheads, track to the futures, and Sal's favorite bets in March. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back. I'm here with Cousin Sal, and we are talking March Madness. We are talking brackets. I know you're one of those guys, Sal, just like myself. Even though I'm a younger man, I still print out my bracket. I still like to see my bracket. I still like to fill out my bracket. Do you have any sort of taboo things that you do with the bracket, or anything that you advise people to do? Do you have any golden rules to March Madness before we get into all of our favorite bets?
No, I mean, I think they say pretty much advance the top 3 seeds. As much as you can, right? Because, I think it's hit like 91% that the top 3 seeds have gotten at least past the first round. Pick some 10s over 7s in there. Pick at least 112 over a 5. Things like that. And maybe stay away from some of the obvious ones. But I kind of feel like FanDuel should be seeding these teams anyway, because you do have some seeds that are higher than the lower seeds that are favored. So it gets a little weird, but I love it. I can't do enough.
It is the best. It is a little bit wonky, right? Because there are the seed lines, but then there are the actual lines, and that can get confusing. An example of that, Colorado State versus Memphis. Colorado State is favored in that game by about 2.5. Memphis is obviously the 5 seed. Colorado State's the 12 seed. So there is a little bit of confusion there. But again, we have college basketball. The first 4 has started. We had games last night. Now we have the games here on Wednesday. And let's do our line look ahead. Let's start here. We have Texas at Xavier. Xavier minus 2.5 in this one. The total 149.5. Who do you like in this one, Sal?
I have the winner of this going to the Final Four. No, I don't. No. By the way, speaking of brackets, if someone wins one of these years, one of these outer bracket teams is going to win 3 games. It's going to screw everything up. So the aesthetics are already messed up. I'll take Xavier minus 2.5. They, it's a small number with the Musketeers. 7-game winning streak before dropping a close one to Marquette in the Big East quarterfinals. Zach Fremantle, good inside force. Texas doesn't seem to have that. And Xavier has won at least 1 game in each of the last 5 tourney appearances. Sean Miller puts together a W and a cover. They avenged the 12-point loss from a couple of years ago in a tournament. They should have the crowd advantage too, going from Cincinnati area traveling to Dayton. So give me 73-68 Musketeers.
Yeah, it does feel like all things are pointing towards Xavier making a run to the Sweet 16. I actually like them over Kentucky in the second round, so I think they get past Texas. Texas is a team that I like the talent of this team. Trey Johnson, Tremont Mark, those 2 guys in the backcourt. But it does seem if you watch those games, it feels like Isaiah Thomas and Michael Jordan in the All-Star game. Like Mark is trying to freeze out Johnson and Johnson's trying to freeze out Mark. So there's always some underlying things that are happening. I like the way Xavier's playing. They're a much hotter team, and they have a lot of momentum going into the tournament. They also probably all of the umbrage that was sent towards North Carolina. Maybe Xavier deserved a little bit of that as well. They were able to avoid that. So all things are pointing towards that because I like them in this game. Next up, line look ahead. We got American taking on Mount St. Mary's. Mount St. Mary's plus 2.5 in this one. The total 128.5. Sal, who do you like in this one? I know you've been watching these teams all season long.
Yeah, I can't get enough of these teams. In fact, I'm going to be sad when one of them goes away. Right. 128.5 seems a little low. I was going to maybe jump on the over. They're similar, these teams. Both won their conference tournaments, obviously. Both of these schools won 22-12 in the regular season. Both have 4-game winning streaks. Mount St. Mary's 21-12 against the spread. I don't know. Neither is good, but my deciding factor is American lost by 52 to your crap Tar Heels. So they should be relegated to whatever tournament is 2 below the NIT.
Right.
Give me Mount St. Mary's plus 2.5.
I like that. They're going to have to take some of the pain now that they've lost to Carolina by that amount. They also should not belong in the tournament. I'm going to go with American. A couple of my good friends out here, they went to American. They like this team. They actually do watch these games. Dwayne Simpkins, their head coach, has had a good year in his second season. Jackie Manuel, North Carolina national champion from the 2005 team. He's an assistant coach at American. So I've got my own personal bias here, but I think American's going to win this game. And if you look at assist turnover ratio, they're 20th in the country. So American, they protect the basketball. I like teams that do that in March, so I'm going to take them to win this game. If you go to FanDuel Sportsbook right now, they got a lot of specials up, Sal, and a lot of different ways that you can bet the NCAA tournament. You can basically decide if you want to do some futures. You can do some parlays. I have one parlay I wanted to run by you. They're calling it the One Shining Parlay. It's Michigan State to make the Elite Eight, which I feel like they have a pretty clear path. There's also Duke to make the Final Four. If you parlay those two things together, Sal, you can get it at plus 342. What do you think about that? Do you like it?
I love it because I have both teams to make the Final Four. I have a similar one with Duke Final Four and Maryland to make the Sweet 16. You don't get a lot for it. I think it's like plus 184. No, what do I have? Plus 205 or something, somewhere in there. But I like this Maryland team. I really do. The Crab Five, right? They had nice Big Ten wins. They call them the Crab Five because they're not very deep. If one of them gets hurt, they're kind of screwed. Not a deep bench. They lost to Michigan State by 3. They lost to Michigan by 1 on Saturday in the semifinals of the Big Ten tournament. I think they just get by Bryce Drew's Grand Canyon team, and then Memphis or Colorado State should be easy enough. Kevin Willard, let's go.
It also feels like Maryland, if you've been watching this season, they have had 4 games that have ended in buzzer beaters that have just been absolutely heartbreaking. The most recent was against Michigan. Trey Donaldson dribbles down the entire court. Nobody stops the ball. He finishes and wins the game with the left-handed layup. They had the Trey Holloman heave from half court at home against Michigan State, right? So they've had some bad things happen to them. So I do think the karma of the basketball gods is going to be on their side. So I like Maryland as well. A lot of people like SEC teams, Sal, but you are saying there is a chance to go against them. What do you like here as a special?
This is ballsy, Tate. I'm going no SEC teams in the Final Four. Meanwhile, like a quarter of the bracket is SEC teams. If you get rid of the 16 seeds, so if it's 14, it's essentially 14 out of like 50, really, right? Because if you get rid of the 16 seeds and a couple of 15s. Anyway, I have Houston, Michigan State, Duke, and Maryland in the Final Four. Incidentally, that pays 172. No SEC teams in the Final Four pays plus 750. Lots of good teams not in the SEC, Tate. If you don't like the ones I just named, how about St. John's? How about Wisconsin? How about Michigan? How about Illinois? I think the Big Ten makes more noise than people expect. And the SEC teams could be exhausted from playing each other at a high level all year.
Yeah, and a lot of times when you have these super conferences and everyone's talking about how great they are, we've seen it with the Big 12 in recent memory, it feels like it doesn't go their favor when we get to the actual NCAA tournament. 2004 ACC, they were the talk of the town. That conference was as deep as ever. Some would say it is the deepest conference ever. Guess what happens? Georgia Tech makes it to the title game, but they lose to UConn in the title game. So the best conference doesn't always mean they're going to be the national champions. I got another one for you, Sal, another special. Worst seed to reach the Final Four. They got all the odds here. I'm going to take an 8 seed to make the Final Four, and more specifically, I'm going to take the 8 seed Gonzaga. Now, you don't have to pick which 8 seed is going to be there. You can get the odds at plus 500. I think Louisville has a shot potentially if it breaks their way, if they're able to get past Auburn to steal the 1 seed path. I think Gonzaga could do that to Houston and steal the 1 seed path. So to be able to get an 8 seed at plus 500, that's better odds than a 5 seed, better odds than a 6 seed, better odds than a 7 seed. So it does feel like the odds makers are worried about these 8 seeds, and you can get some value at plus 500.
That's pretty good. You know what? I'll book that bet because it's not going to win, but that's fine. Let's go. Should we go to Thursday games?
Yeah, that's a good bet. That's a good thing. Is there any other? What about Patino Calipari? I know that's the storyline that a lot of people are trying to hammer home. That's something that you like to see, and you can actually bet on, right, Sal, to have these guys meet up in the second round?
Yeah. I mean, it's easy enough to parlay them just to win their first games, and you get plus 159. You're not getting a ton because St. John's is just such a a huge favorite. They'll be like minus 3,500, but plus 159. This is the greatest Italian-American matchup since Marino, Montana back in 85, I think, 40 years ago. Gives Tommy DeVito a nice little break from the Italian stereotypical jokes.
Where is Sean Stellato? He's got to be at this game. Where is
Sean Stellato too? He should be there. But it's also what everybody wants to see, so it's not going to happen. And we're going to see Kansas and Bill Self ruin it. But anyway, I'm going with the parlay. I'm doing it. Patino Calipari plus 159.
I like that. And I like that they have odds on that. Shout out to our friends at FanDuel for making that possible. I do feel like the wise guys, like if it is Patino Calipari, like all of the wise guys should get together on the East Coast, take a trip up to Providence and watch this game because like you said, Sal, it's a seminal moment. It's a monumental moment. And Rick Pitino is going to have a field day facing John Calipari in the NCAA tournament. All right, Sal, last thing. Obviously, there's a lot of bets. Again, you can go to FanDuel right now. You can look at all the mini specials, all the mini futures. You can make your own parlays. You can make your own concoctions and decide what you want to do for March Madness. Let's track to the future here. Last thing before we go, your best bet, Sal. If you look at the whole landscape, you look at all the specials, you say, my gut, my heart, my head, everything is telling me this is the best bet for March.
You know, that's my favorite tab on FanDuel, the MYOC, make your own concoctions, as Tate says. I am going to take 2 number 1 seeds to reach the Final Four at plus 135. I think you like this as well. Yeah. Now, 4 number 1s has only happened once in 2008 since they did this. When they do the 64 teams and back in 85, right?
85, right?
Okay, yep. So we're talking 40 years, only happened once. 3 number 1 seeds making it. Only happened 5 times. 2 is the magic number, Tate. That's the sweet spot. Houston and Duke for me. That's it. Plus 135. Not a great payment, but that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think 2 number 1 seeds. My 2, my flavor, I'm going to go Duke and Florida. But again, I think it's going to be 2 1 seeds that are in the Final Four. The fact that you can get plus money there is great. And I think that Duke's going to make the Final Four. I think they're going to make the national championship game. And I think they're going to win the national championship game. And even if they don't win the national championship game, I think this guy will be the most outstanding player if he's in the building. His name is Cooper Flagg. He is the flagship. He is the main character from Maine. And you can get his odds at plus 370. And I just know those odds are going to continue to get worse and worse and worse as Duke continues to win and win and win. So if you want to bet now, Cooper Flagg MOP, I think that is the best bet of the tournament. So
you love Duke. Right, it took us a whole 25, 30 minutes, whatever it is. I knew it. I knew deep down you love Duke, Tate. Congratulations. Must feel freeing.
What a 180 it has been in my life to get here at this point. Last thing, Sal, we got to promote Vegas. I'll turn it over to you, and I'll add some details and some things accordingly. But we will be in Las Vegas for the first 2 rounds. It's going to be a lot of fun.
That's it. Thursday and Friday, 4 p.m., 10 p.m. It's a free watch party at the Jimmy Kimmel Comedy Club. Some of these places, Caesars Palace, you have to pay $400 to get a seat to watch basketball. No, you'll get to watch with us, and it's the opposite. There's prize money, thousands of dollars in prize money, and you get to shake hands with me and Tate and Kenny Mayne and Harry will have his shirt off. Lots of fun going on. Nephew Kyle will be there. Good times. Jimmy Kimmel Comedy Club, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, come join us. Harry usually has a few haters and hecklers in the building, which is always fun to see. There's a lot of back and forth, and we had a great time last year. We're going to have an even better time this year. Come join us. Sal, you're the best. Thanks so much for coming on the show, as always, man.
See you, buddy. See you Thursday.
See you Thursday, and we'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to Thru the Ringer. Joining us now, as promised before the break, he is a man who knows what's happening in March. We don't have too many of them here in Ringer Universe, but we're lucky to have him on the show. Steven Ruiz, thanks for joining us, man. I'm excited to talk some college basketball with you. How you doing, man? How you holding up during this whole March Madness? Selection Sunday feels like it was eons ago at this point.
It really does. And I'm in between 2 worlds with NFL free agency going on. We have trades going on, speculation. And on the other end, we finally have this bracket, which I've been waiting like 5 months for. So it's an exciting time for me. It's a busy time, but it's an exciting time.
Yeah, it is the best. We're going to kind of go through the regions. We'll try to find like a favorite, a favorite upset, maybe a favorite storyline for you. We're going to start in the South. Obviously, Auburn, the number 1 overall seed, even though they sputtered down the stretch, 3 of the last 4 they lost. They lost to top 12 teams, so there's a little bit you can write off. But again, they're in the South. They're going to be in Atlanta if they get there. They do have a bit of a tough draw with Louisville potentially in the second round in Lexington. That's something I want to talk about. But just Auburn as a number 1 overall seed. When you saw that, how'd you feel? And what do you think about their path in the South?
I was kind of happy with it. I was happy the committee kind of overlooked their tough stretch at the end of the season there, just because of their resume. They have the strongest resume, most quad one wins. And I think it will do them some good to get out of the SEC. And not just because the SEC is loaded, although that's part of it, just because when you're playing a team 3 times and they know all your sets, they know everything you do in the half court. And Auburn's a team that still kind of runs a lot of sets. They're really like a throwback offense in college basketball. You could see how you could stumble down the stretch. Now they get these opponents they haven't really faced, and they don't have a sense for what you do. And I think we're going to see the best of Auburn over the next couple of weeks. Beyond that, if they run into teams they've seen before, I don't know how that's going to look, but I am confident that they're going to get through the first 2 weekends here.
Yeah, and Auburn right now, they would be the favorite to win the South region. Obviously, they're the number 1 overall seed. That checks out there. -105. If it's not Auburn, is there another team in the South that sticks out to you that you would say is your favorite? Maybe not the favorite, but your favorite.
I think it's Michigan State. Like, this is a team that I came around to on late in the season. I was kind of skeptical of them just because of the preseason expectations, but it is a classic Tom Izzo team, and we've seen Auburn struggle with teams that can bully them on the glass, and you know what Michigan State does. That's kind of their calling card, and this year it's really their calling card. And they have the guards that I don't think will be afraid of going up against that Auburn backcourt. They really get after you on the defensive end, but I think Michigan State can kind of I don't know. I think they're going to struggle to stay in front of Michigan State's guards. And if you can win the battle of the glass, I think the Spartans have a chance of pulling off an upset. But I think that's the first time we'll see Auburn test it, really.
Yeah, and it is a nice path for Michigan State at the bottom of that bracket. Obviously, Iowa State's dealing with some injuries. That's why a lot of people are a little bit out on them at this point. And Michigan State, if you've watched them this year, they struggled early on figuring out what that starting 5 is and what that closing 5 is. They figured it out. Jace Richardson, when they need somebody to step up, he seems like the one who can step up for them. And there is the connection to the Flintstones. So that's why I think a lot of people are excited about this Michigan State team. Let's flip to the East region. Obviously, we got the Duke Blue Devils. They will be in Newark. They really don't have much opposition in this bracket, and most people are expecting Cooper Flagg and this team to go on a deep run. Are they your favorite? Do you think they're going to win this region? And, what are your thoughts on the Duke Blue Devils as a whole right now?
I think they are my favorite. I think they're just the best mix and best blend of this type of teams we've seen win in March in recent history. I mean, they have the freshman talent. They obviously have the NBA talent. Beyond Flagg, you said Nipple, who's going to be a first-round pick. Malo Ouch is going to be a first-round pick. And then you have the tough veterans off the bench. I know they lose Malik Brown, but you still have Tyrese Proctor, who I think has stepped up over the last couple of weeks. They're a solid team, but I do think it comes down to the fact that they don't have a lot of threats, like a lot of true contender threats beyond Alabama. Arizona is a team that I don't really trust, and they've burned a lot of bridges over the last couple of years if you back them in your bracket. Right. And then Oregon, I thought, was overseeded. So at the top of the bracket, you don't really have much beyond maybe if Baylor turns it on and figures it out on the defensive end. But beyond that, I think it's going to be a cakewalk to the Final Four for them.
Yeah, there's a Jeremy Roach redemption game. If you are new to college basketball, Jeremy Roach played at Duke last year. Now he's going to be playing at Baylor. So maybe there's a storyline there that could stop Duke. Caleb Love is obviously another storyline. If Arizona were to meet them in the Sweet 16, he ended Coach K's career. People forget in the Final Four. Maybe he can do something again. Arizona did win at Duke last season, but again, that is last season. Bill Simmons said this to me a few years ago. I mean, I don't even know how many years ago at this point, but he said if a team has 3 NBA players, they're going to make the Final Four. And I think it was about Virginia. He was talking about Kyle Guy, he's talking about DeAndre Hunter, he's talking about Ty Jerome. He's like, those 3 guys are NBA guys, which is kind of a crazy thing to say when you really think about it. But I like the 3 NBA rule. Duke obviously has maybe even more than 3 guys on their team. And just looking at the odds here, Alabama's the second best at plus 440. Grant Nelson, the injury is kind of looming over them. Wisconsin maybe is a play at plus 1100 if you want to take a swing, a team that can score the basketball, a team that gets to the foul line, a team that maybe could give Duke some trouble just because they're able to score with them. They do have the firepower, but again, it does feel like Duke's region at this point, so we'll go with the Blue Devils as your favorite there. Let's go to the Midwest here. We got Houston. Houston as the number 1 seed. Do they have a problem getting to the Final Four this year? Is there someone that's in their way? How do you feel about Houston?
Yeah, we've talked about this before. I really like that matchup for Gonzaga in the second round if Gonzaga can get there, just because of what they have down low. This is a throwback team, really, in many respects, but they play inside out, and they truly do, and they're very efficient at it. Like Graham Ike, if you watched him over the last month, he just looks unguardable at this point. In the West Coast Conference tournament, nobody could guard him. And then Brandon Huff is a guy that I really like. Ben Gregg is an efficient scorer.
Love the front court of the Zags, right?
Yeah, and then they have experienced guards. They're not guards that are going to burn you by like scoring 20 points a game, but they can get their 12 points and they're going to get their 5 assists. Or well, with Nembhard, he might get 10 assists on you, and they're going to protect the ball, which is really big against Houston. But if Houston gets past that matchup, I really like them this year. I like Uzan. I like what he's brought to the table. I like their shooting with Cryer. Juwan Roberts just incrementally gets better every single season. I think he has more touch around the basket this year. So they have the pieces too. And they've also lost a little trust over the last 2 Marches because they've bowed out in the Sweet 16 as 1 seeds. But I think this is the best version of the team we've seen in recent years.
Yeah, and last year, obviously, the Jamal Shed injury stops
Right.
them in the Sweet 16 against Duke, and a lot of people thought that last year was the year they were going to make that run. The year before that, with Jim Nance saying goodbye and playing the Final Four in Houston, people thought that was going to be the year. So I think a lot of people have had their eggs in that basket, so they do feel a little bit jaded. Juwan Roberts' injury is the one that I'm focused in on. If he is not 100%, and Graham Ike and Huff and Greg can kind of beat them with kind of a trio of bigs that they can rotate in and out, I do feel like they could give Houston some problems. Also, second best scoring offense in the country, Gonzaga about 87 points per game. Houston, second best defensive team in the country, giving up about 59 points per game. This is a something got to give game if they do meet in that round. So anyone else in Houston, though, or in the Midwest, I mean, it is Houston's bracket, but in the Midwest that sticks out to you? We mentioned Gonzaga. They're obviously an 8 seed. They have the 3rd best odds to make the Final Four at plus 850. There's Kentucky plus 1,000. There's Illinois plus 1,000. I do feel like those 2 teams are feast or famine, right? We've seen the high of highs of Kentucky could easily make the Final Four. The high of highs of Illinois could easily make the Final Four, but we just don't know who these teams are right now, right?
No, yeah, exactly. And with Kentucky, you have the Lamont Butler health thing. They dealt with injuries all year long. Illinois, it's hard to trust them on the defensive end. When they need a stop in crunch time, they rarely get that stop, so that's tough. And with Tennessee at the bottom of the bracket, they're prone to stretches of not being able to put the ball in the basket, especially if Chaz Lanier, like we saw in the SEC final, if he can't put the ball in the basket from 3, they play games in the 60s, in the 50s, and they are comfortable doing that, and they are a tough defensive team that's going to make you grind out possessions. I don't see any like bad matchups for them on the bottom half of the bracket, except for maybe Kentucky. So I'm looking at a Houston-Tennessee Elite 8 matchup, and I really just like Houston in that matchup because they have more options on offense.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Last region, we'll go to the West. Florida, obviously the 1 seed here, and a very trendy pick. We'll get into the minutia of Florida after the break, but just your favorite of this group, Florida minus 135. Obviously, the Johnnies are a lot of there's a lot of talk about the Johnnies in this in this side of town. Kyle Crichton, our producer, locked in on that. Who do you like here in the West? Who's your favorite?
I like St. John's. Maybe I'm just buying into the narrative. Maybe I'm buying into Rick Pitino and what he's done in year 2. But I just think they're set up to give teams problems in March and make games uncomfortable, especially for Florida, who likes to get out and run, who likes to play in transition. St. John's, I think they can muck up a game. And Rick Pitino, if I had to pick one coach to put together a game plan to win a tournament game, which is very key in a tournament environment, I think it's Rick Pitino. And I don't know if it's close at this point with how the coaching landscape has changed over the last couple of years. So I expect him to throw something at Florida that they're uncomfortable with, and I think that will give them enough of an edge. And obviously on the defensive end, they might be the most versatile defensive team in this field.
And if there's anyone that knows Florida's best player, it is Rick Pitino, who coached him 2 years ago at Iona. So Walter Clayton, he has the scouting report. Also, Walter Clayton knows what his coach Rick Pitino is going to do, and that's wreak havoc. He is going to switch everything. He's going to put a lot of defensive blitzes, a lot of defensive pressures that teams don't want to deal with. And when you have players like R.J. Lewis, Kadari Richmond, Zuby Ejiofor, who can get switched onto guards, they're a defensive nightmare for a lot of people. And in Providence, that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk more NCAA tournament with Stephen Ruiz. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Thru the Ringer. I'm Tate Frazier, and I'm still here with Stephen Ruiz, and we are going through the bracket. I want to talk about the hottest team in the country that everybody seems to be. I even saw Joe House this morning on East Coast Bias talking about the Florida Gators. I do like this Florida team a lot. I've watched them a lot. I think Walter Clayton Jr., I think that Will Richard, I think those two guys in the backcourt with Elijah Martin as kind of their defensive bulldog is a great trio. Reminds me of the Baylor guards from 2021. So there's a path for Florida. But are we falling into the trap of just going after the hottest team in the country, and is that something we should watch out for when it comes to the Gators?
I think we are. I will say this though: I think Florida, in a vacuum, just ignoring the matchups, has an Elite 8 floor. Like, that's how good they are. They have so much talent, and they're deep, and they can run, and they can score. I do wonder what happens when the game slows down and they're forced to maybe kick the ball inside and try to score on the block, and they don't really have post threats. Their big men are really good. They can pick and pop, and they can roll and catch the ball and finish off plays. But they're not guys that you could throw the ball in the low post and they're going to get you a bucket. And I just don't know if you can get through March, through 6 matchups. 4 of them are going to be really tough against really good teams, especially with how deep the field is this year. And if you have an off shooting night one round, or maybe the team grinds it to a halt and you can't get out and run, I do think I don't know. I think they could lose. I think they could lose before the Elite 8, right, even though they do have that as a floor. I think talent based on talent alone.
At the bottom of this bracket, we have again, we're in the reactions business, not the predictions business. But if we were in the predictions business, there is a potential narrative storyline of Rick Pitino versus John Calipari in the second round in Providence. I mean, are we signing up for that? Do we want that? Are we rooting for that? Like, what does that look like, Pitino versus Calipari in the NCAA tournament?
I think the committee is definitely rooting for it. I don't know if I'm rooting to watch it, because I think it will be a slugfest. I think it will be a game played in the 50s or 60s. I don't think it will be a well-played basketball game with a lot of shots going into the basket. But I would love to hear the pre and post game press conferences alone, because both of these guys have become stars. Yes. As they become older, they're even better at it now. They kind of don't care anymore, and they just say whatever comes to their mind, especially with Pitino. He says like some problematic things that maybe you shouldn't say, like not bad things, but he's been, he's talking about unaliving himself a couple times.
Right, jumping in the East River, dying of frostbite. I mean, you got John
very morbid.
Calipari. Yeah, right, very morbid. John Calipari is talking about like he's a little bit wacky. I'm a little bit unconventional. He tried to get his guy to miss a free throw so that he could keep it a one-possession game in the SEC tournament. Like you said, these guys are shooting from the hip. They've actually never had more free reign than ever, and nostalgia is a hell of a drug. And obviously, America is in love with the idea of Tom Izzo, John Calipari, Rick Pitino, right? These are familiar faces. As all the old guard has left the game, these guys are still here. They're still fighting. And I do think there is some sort of nostalgia at play where people are rooting for Rick Pitino. They're rooting for John Calipari. They're rooting for Tom Izzo because it feels like familiar territory. And that is the argument for why I want to see those two guys. And also they have this funny connective tissue where like they had the same origin stories. Like they were at 5-star together. Rick Pitino was a little bit older, but Calipari kind of learned under Garf and Tom Konchowski. Rick Pitino was obviously born into that world, and he did it first. Like he went to BU first and recruited like he did it first. And then John Calipari is like, I see the blueprint. He starts doing the same thing. So it's kind of the Spider-Man meme of each other. Like they don't like each other because they're so similar. And that is a fun storyline. I'm excited to see what happens there. Let's do our favorite upset in each region. We'll go back to the South here. Again, Auburn is the favorite here to win this region. But is there a favorite first round upset that you've circled in the South that you think looks pretty good? A lot of people are talking about UC San Diego, obviously, because of the altitude. You also got Yale. They did it last year against Auburn. What do you like?
I think I like Yale over Texas A&M. Just because I think Texas A&M, they can't shoot the basketball, and they rely on being tougher than the other teams. They rely on attacking the offensive glass. And I don't know how that's going to translate with Yale, because obviously they play against Ivy League competition, but they are top 25 in defensive rebound rate.
Let's flip to the East. Not as easy on this side, but again, a lot of people, there's arguments about like what is an upset. There's a seed upset. There's a line upset. I want to keep it banal. Let's just do a seed upset. So if St. Mary's, for example, or if Vanderbilt upset St. Mary's, like that would still be considered an upset, even though the line is a little bit different. But looking over here, do you have a favorite upset in the East?
Maybe Liberty. I really like how Liberty shoots the ball. They have a potential March star in Matheny, who, if you watch that conference tournament final, the other team was doing everything in their power to stop him from shooting threes. And he was shooting them from like 10 feet behind the line, and they were.
It was giving Steph Curry vibes.
It really was. Bit, right? I didn't want to bring that name up, but it was. And I don't know if that's going to translate to the first round of the tournament, but I like that. But also, Arizona and Akron, I think we have some potential there. I think Arizona has way more talent, but if Akron's threes are falling, I think we could see a potential meltdown from Caleb Love if he tries to keep up, because that's what happens when Arizona loses. He shoots them out of games. I think there's some potential for that because both teams like to run.
Midwest, this is a chalky region. I really don't see too many upsets here, but do you have one that you see or one that you could see happening, a favorite upset?
High Point is the one that I've kind of been looking at just because they have size, and they have size to go up against a Big Ten front line with a very good center in Trey Kaufman-Renn, who, if you can kind of defend him one-on-one and shut off the three-point shooting from like Fletcher Lawyer, if you can force Braden Smith to shoot off the dribble rather than catching the ball in the corner and putting a shot up, I think you can turn that into an inefficient offense.
Last region, West. Let's see if we can find an upset here. There's a lot that people are calling for. Again, there's the line upset versus the seed upset. Colorado State is favored, but they're also the 12 seed. Do you have a favorite upset in the West?
I'm going to go with Drake. I'm just going to go with the story. Like that's I think it's the best story in college basketball this year. And I think that this is a team that's built for March, and it's a team that's played together and won games deep into tournaments, not the Division I tournament, not the NCAA tournament, but the Division II tournament at Northwest Missouri State. And even last year, this foursome that transferred along with Ben McCullum to Drake, they lost on a buzzer beater in the Sweet 16. So I think they have something to play for this year. I think they have some extra motivation. And then I really like that second round matchup with Texas Tech, potentially, if they do get past Missouri. There was a preseason scrimmage. That was like the first time that this Drake foursome that came over from Division II played against Power 5 competition. That's when they realized, hey, we belong on this level. We can play at this level. They lose only 3 games. They've avenged all of those losses. So I really want to see what they do. I love Bennett Sturtz's game. Reminds me of Grievous Vasquez, one of my favorite players ever.
Bennett Sturtz is he leads the country in game MVPs according to Kim Pom, and if you don't know the name, you will know it very soon. He's a very fun player. He is in complete control of the game, which is the reason why I think you bring up the Vasquez thing. I mean, there were some times when you play Grievous Vasquez in Maryland where you're just like, Tyler Hansbrough's on the court, but Grievous Vasquez is dictating everything that's happening, and he's calling out everything. And Bennett Sturtz has that kind of power and mastery. It's a lot of fun to watch. Last thing before we let you go, every single year gets to March Madness, and the casual fan, they want to know who the Cinderella story is, who they're going to fall in love with, who's the little guy. If you had to kind of close your eyes, forecast who is going to be this year's Cinderella team, the darling of all, our basketball watching hearts, who would it be?
I'm going to go with St. Mary's. I'm going to go with the 10 seed in the East. I really like their matchup with Alabama. Their team, Randy Bennett's team, always plays slow. Even against Gonzaga, those Gonzaga teams I love to get up and down. They hold them to around 60 points. I think you can do that against Bama. You have a chance.
Well, I'm going to stick in the WCC. I think Gonzaga is going to go back to their old ways. They're going to be a Cinderella story this year. As an 8 seed, they're going to make a run, and everyone's going to say, that's what we remember. 1999 Gonzaga, the first time, our first impression of that team. So both of us loving the WCC. Ruiz, where can we find all your work during March? Then we'll let you go enjoy the rest of your day, man.
Yeah, on theringer.com, I'm going to be writing winners and losers basically after every round. So check that out. I have a Drake story coming out this week. So that's another one I'm excited about.
Yeah, us too. And One Shining Podcast, we're going to have you do some rapid reactions after games as well. So go tune in, go follow us throughout the entire run during March. And Ruiz, thanks again for coming on the show, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me.
There you have it. Thanks to Cousin Sal, as always, for coming on the show. Thanks to Stephen Ruiz for joining us and talking about March Madness. And thank you for tuning in to Thru the Ringer. We will be back next week, and we will be talking all things madness, and we will see you then.